Hi guys, welcome to the second session of the particular series that we are going through. And in this session, the topic that we are going to cover is stack and queues. So, the question that we are going to see is of the queue topic first. But before moving towards the problems that we are going to discuss, I would like to tell you certain things that you should be doing during this lockdown. Obviously, you are studying the curriculum, and I have heard that most of the colleges have started the online classes as well. But apart from that, you should be upgrading your skill set, right? So, this series is a part of that thing only, in which we are going to upgrade your skill set. You will learn new things, that how can you approach, what are the different ways through which you can solve a particular problem. So, the first thing that we are going to look at is, let us see. So, this question is based on queues, and so one day I decided to give some student a coding blocks t-shirt. So the problem that student has to solve is, uh, I have given a certain array, and he needs to tell me what is the length of the shortest non-empty contiguous subarray. Contiguous subarray means that the elements are adjacent to each other, they lie continuously, right? So the sum of that contiguous subarray should be at least k. It can be greater than k, but it should be at least k. It could be k plus 1, it could be k plus 2, though the sum should be at least k, right? So let us see how we can approach this particular problem. So see, there is a concept which is called as prefix sum. Before moving towards the solution, let us understand what prefix sum means. So if I'm going to add all the elements from the 0th index, and I'm going to take sum of each and every element, so this is going to give me an array, and that is called as prefix sum array. So you can read about it. So what happens in this case is, so this is the prefix sum array. If you will add all the elements continuously, so it will be 3. If you subtract minus 2, it will be 1. Then if you subtract minus 2 again, it will be minus 1, and so on. So we have this array in which I have calculated the sum of all the elements, right? So see, if someone asks you that what is the minimum length that is having the sum which is at least k, so consider that if you have considered some range, let's say this, I call that this range is having some sum which is equals to a, and I'll say that this range is having some sum which is equals to b, and I need to figure out the range, or I need to figure out the length of this particular between in middle range of this particular array. So how can I do that? I can simply do b minus a. So b minus a is going to give me 6 minus 3, so that is going to be 3. So let us check whether the sum of this particular range is equals to 3 or not. So you can add these elements, and you can see that sum of these elements is equals to 3 only. So whenever we are taking the difference of the sum of particular range, so it's going to give us the elements that lies from b till a, but a is not included in that part, right? What is the length of this particular range? So I can do that the index of b minus the index of a. So this is going to give me 4 minus 0. So the length of this particular range is equals to 4. So yeah, there are 4 elements inside it. So you can see. So this will be applicable to all of the cases. So now if you are trying to figure out what is the length that is having the sum which is at least k, so you can do this for all the possible cases of b and a. So in that case, it will take O of n square time complexity, right? So this will work in O of n square time complexity. Whenever we are working with n square time complexity, we need to check the constraints, right? So see, the value of n is given as 10 raised to the power 8. So it will not work in 10 n square time complexity, because that will make it 10 raised to the power 16, right? Total iteration will be equals to 10 raised to the power 16 if the value of n is 10 raised to the power 8. So this problem is not going to work, or this problem is going to give you TLE. So this is the case where most of the students get stuck. They are not able to figure out that what should we do in this particular case. So you have to know about certain data structures through which we can solve this particular problem. Instead of going to each and every element again and again, we need to figure out a way that we should go to every element only once, and we should be able to figure out what is the range of that particular subarray, right? So let us see how we can do it. So for this particular thing, we are going to use a data structure which is called as DEC, or you can call it as doubly ended queue or double ended queue, whatever you may like. So we are going to use a DQ, or sorry, DEC. So consider that before moving towards the algorithm, consider that if you are having a sum inside your queue, so in double ended queue, what happens is you can insert from front and you can insert from backwards as well. You can delete from front and you can delete from backwards as well. So this data structure is required to help solve this particular problem in O of n time complexity, right? So let us see how we can do it. So suppose that before moving towards the algorithm, let us consider that we have certain elements and the sum of certain elements is equals to ABCD. This is the continuous subarray sum. So you can consider that this is A, this is B, this is C, this is D, this is E. The elements inside this which are having certain sum. So what we are trying to do is, let us say if I am going to add the sum which is equals to E, it's possible that whatever element was stored at this particular index which was equals to 6, if I'll add that to this previous sum of the continuous subarray, so what will happen is it's possible that the sum could exceed the value of k. It's possible now that E is exceeding the value of k, is greater than or equals to the value of k. So you guys can figure out at this point of time that if someone asks me that what is the uh, range of this particular after addition of this particular element, which is the eth element, that is 6 in this particular case, if I'll add this sixth element, so let's say the index of this element is I of E and index of this is I of A. So what will be the range of this particular sum, this particular subarray sum? The range of this particular subarray sum is going to be index of E minus index of A. So it's possible now that this has exceeded the sum which is equals to k, and the length of this particular subarray is IE minus IA. So I have figured out one solution that has the sum which is greater than k. So it's possible that the answer could be IE minus IA. I'm talking in generic terms right now. Yeah, so it's possible. Now what should I do? I have certain sum which is exceeding the value of k, right? We need to find which is having the sum at least k. So if the sum is equals to k, in that case the length will be smallest, right? So what I should do in this case, you can obviously you can think that what if I remove a, and if I'll calculate what is the length and what is the sum of this particular range now which is decreased. Earlier there were 5 elements, now we are considering it for the 4 elements, that what is the range of this particular length. So the range of, or the length of this particular sum would be IE minus IB. It's possible that still the E minus B is greater than equals to K. It's possible that the range of this particular length, the sum of this particular length is still greater than K. It's possible, na? So in this case, the answer would be IE minus IB and not IE minus IA. Why? Because this length is smaller, right? So we are going to pop the elements, or we are going to remove the elements from the front till the time we are having the sum which is greater than k. So this makes sense, right? So this is the first step that we need to consider. All right, so we will try using DEC and we will see how we can approach this particular problem with a certain example. So let us see this example only and let us write it again. Let me just write it again. 3 minus 2 minus 2 4 3 minus 1 5. The sum is 3 1 minus 1 3 6 5 and 10, right? So this is the prefix sum and this is our array. So now let us see and see the working which we have studied right now. So let us see the working of that algorithm. So suppose that we are going to iterate over this particular array. So see, I have to assume that the sum till this point is equals to 0, that there is no elements that we have considered right now. And what should be the index till this point? So the index till this point, I can say that index is equals to -1, because you have seen whenever we consider the range or whenever we consider the range, if I'll say b minus a, so b minus a is going to give me the sum of the elements which excludes the a, but we need to include a as well, right? At some moment we need to include the 0th index as well in the answer. So what should we do? We need to consider the a range till this point, right? So if we are considering the range till this point, so the index of that particular range is going to be -1. If I'm talking about these are the indices, so the index of that range is going to be -1, right? So now if someone says that what is the sum of b minus a, so you can say now this is going to give me the sum of these elements. So what is the sum of these elements? This is going to be 6. So you can say that 6 minus sum till this point is 0. So 6 minus 0 is 6. So we have got the correct sum. And what is the length of this particular range? That is this index minus -1, which is the index of this particular sum, and that is going to be 5. So yeah, the range is equals to 5 in this case. The length of this particular range is equals to 5. So it's working absolutely fine. Alright, so we have initially considered that the index is equals to -1 and the sum is equals to 0 till this particular point. So yeah, that's absolutely fine. Alright, so the sum till this point is equals to 0. Now the next part that comes in, how can we calculate this particular solution using n time complexity, right? So now we are going to consider doubly ended queue. Why we have considered doubly ended queue? Because it's possible that whenever we are trying that, or whenever we get sum which is greater than k, what we are going to do, we are going to check whether this range is having sum which is greater than k. So it's fine, we can store that as the answer, which is ie minus ia. But it's possible that if we will remove this element a, still the answer that we have of the shorter range, or the sum that we have of the shorter range, is still greater than k. So in that case, we need to update the answer to ie minus ib. So we have to remove the elements from the front as well. And whenever we are going to insert certain element, we are going to insert at the end. So in this way, I'm going to figure out which data structure I can use. So there is possibility that you will use a doubly ended queue, because you have to do insertion and deletion from both the part, end as well, or from the starting point as well. So that is how we concluded that we are going to use a data structure which is called as DEC. So that's fine. Now let us see. So firstly we will insert the sum 0, because the sum 0 is of till this point. Now what I'll do, I'll say that I'll also store the index. What is the index of that particular sum? So I am going to store a pair. In this pair, I am going to store the sum as well as the index of the current element, or the current element till which we have calculated the sum. So it's fine. So now we will move from this point, which is I is equals to 0, and we will iterate over this entire array only once. Last index is going to be n minus 1, right? So we will see that the sum of this particular index, we need prefix sum in this, right? We need prefix sum. So the sum of this particular element is 3. Let's say k is equals to 8 in this case, right? The sum is equals to 3. So what I'll do, I'll insert sum and I'll also insert the index of this particular sum. So that's fine. Now I can see that sum is not greater than k. So yeah, so I'll continue. Now I'll see that the sum has decreased somehow, right? The sum of the next index has decreased somehow. So sum has become equals to 1. Earlier it was equals to 3. So you guys can think about this particular problem, that if we are trying to find the shortest range, right? So if we are trying to find the shortest range and k is always greater than equals to 1. So would you like to start the range from a negative value or not? So it makes sense that I should never start calculating the range from some negative value. This should never be the starting point. Why? Because if we are going to start from a negative value, then the answer would be of a greater length. It makes sense. So what I'll do in this case, I will never start it from this particular point. And I have told you earlier as well, whenever we are considering this as the starting point, we consider the range A till this point and B till some other point. So in this case, it means that we are going to start from this negative index, right? So what I should do in this case, I should remove the sum which is greater than this particular sum. I should remove all the sum which is greater than this particular sum. Then only I can say that this cannot be the starting point, because I am calculating my answer, right? I'll repeat this thing again. I have seen that the sum, when I added some element, has decreased from 3 to 1. So that means this value is going to be a negative value for sure. That's why sum has decreased. Otherwise, it would have been greater than the earlier sum if the value has been positive. So I will never make this as the starting point of my length that I'm going to calculate. This can never be the starting point. And I have told you earlier as well, whenever we are trying to take the sum or whenever we are trying to find the range, we take A and we take B, right? So in this B minus A, if I'll ask you what is the sum of this particular range, so B minus A is going to give me the sum at this point is 3 and sum at A is 3. So this is going to give me 0. So you can see that sum of this range is equals to 0. So the A part is not included, it's excluded. Whatever range is, it's from one step ahead of A, right? So what I'll do, I'll have to remove this as the starting point. So to remove this starting point, what you should do, you should remove this A. This cannot be the answer, right? So what I'll do, I'll remove the sum which is greater than this particular sum 1, right? So every sum, if the sum that I am currently on, let's say I am on the ith sum, if this is less than equals to the sum that is stored earlier, so what should I do? I should remove the earlier sum. It makes sense. If you will remove this A, so that makes complete sense that this will never be the starting point. So I'll remove it. That this should not be the starting point, right? So yeah, this should never be the starting point. But I'll store this element, right? But why I'm storing this element right now, you may ask. We are storing this element because it's possible now if I'll consider this as the A part and if I'm trying to find out some B part, so it's possible that if I exclude this, so this range is going to give me some maximum sum. It's possible. So that's why we have added the sum I to our answer. Otherwise we have ignored it, right? So this makes complete sense. Now let us see and move forward. So if we are on this element right now, which is minus 2 again. So again we are having some sum which is smaller than the previous sum that we have stored. So when we are having a sum which is smaller than the previous sum, which is minus 1, the earlier sum was equals to 1. Again, the same case that we saw earlier, what should we do? We should remove the previous sum because this point cannot be the starting point. So we will remove the earlier sum. So I'll remove this earlier sum and I'll insert this sum minus 1 comma 2, because the starting point could be from this particular position. This could be the A, right? So we will insert this particular element. So yeah, we are having the sum which is still less than K. So I'll still continue. Now I'll see what is the sum of this particular point. So sum of this particular point is 3 comma 3. So that's fine. We will move ahead. It's greater than the previous sum, so we'll keep it we will continue, right? The next sum is 6 comma 4. The sum is 6 and index is 4. So that's fine. We will move one step ahead. So next sum is 5 comma 5. Sum again decreased. It's smaller than the previous sum. So you can see there is one negative index at this particular value. This cannot be the starting point. So what I'll do, I'll remove the previous bucket, that this cannot be the starting point. So you cannot make this as the sum A from B. So yeah, we should remove this negative index. So what I'll do, I'll remove this and I'll insert 5 comma 5 because this could be the starting point, right? So I have removed it. Now I'll move one step ahead. So the sum is 10 comma 6. So now you can say that if we are on a sum that is greater than or equals to K, so now we can calculate the length of this particular range. What is the length of this particular range? We can calculate it. So how can we calculate this range? The length of this range, I can say that sum of this particular range is, let's say, end range is SE and the index of this end range is IE, end range, right? So what I'll do, if I'll try to find what is the length of the continuous subarray that we have, which is having the sum that is greater than 8. So how can I find that? I can do the subtraction of these two indices. So if I'll say that 6 minus minus 1 is equals to 7. So yeah, the length of this range is equals to 7 right now. So if someone asks me that this giving me the sum which is greater than 8, so yeah, this is going to give me the sum which is greater than 8 and the length is equals to 7. So yeah, and we have earlier seen that if we are trying to find out the length of the subarray which is having the subarray which is having the sum greater than K, and we are trying to figure out the length of it. So see, how can we get it? IE minus IA. So IE minus IA is going to give me the length. So once we have calculated it, what I'll do, I'll remove this Ath index. So that is what we are going to do in this case as well. All right, so we have done it, and this is going to give us the range which is length having 7. So yes, you can see that if I'll talk about this index, so yeah, this entire range is giving me the sum that is greater than 8. So what I'll do, I'll remove this element. So to remove this element in constant time, we can use doublet-ended cube. So that's what we have. That's what we are going to do. Now the next thing that we are going to check is, yeah, we have checked the Ath element. Now what we are going to do, what we are going to check whether this range is having the sum which is greater than equals to K or not. So how can I figure out that particular range sum? So I can decrease the sum, right? So if I'll do 10 minus 1 minus 1, so this is going to give me 11. Yes, you can see that this range is also having, right? So this index is 2. So if I'll say that this sum is A and this sum is B, so does this particular range, does this particular continuous range have the sum which is greater than 8 or not? So yes, this have. So you can see that this particular range is having the sum which is equals to 11, right? So the sum of this range is nothing but this is equals to 11 only. So yeah, that's fine. You can calculate it. This is 7, right? 7 minus 1 is 6, 6 plus 5 is 11. So that's fine. So yeah, so what I'll do, I'll update the answer. The answer won't be equals to 7 now. The answer will be this IE minus IB, which is 6 minus 2. 6 minus 2 is 4. So the length of this is 4 only. So this is giving us the correct answer. Yes. So now what I'll do, I'll remove this element as well. Now I'll calculate whether this range is having the sum which is greater than equals to k or not. So the sum of this particular range is going to be 10 minus 3, because this is the sum. So 10 minus 3 is nothing, but 10 minus 3 is equals to 7. So no, this is not having the sum which is greater than equals to k. So the answer for this particular question is going to be 4. Now I'll stop now, because if this range is not having the sum which is greater than or equals to k, so this smaller range will also not have the sum which is greater than equals to k. So I'll stop. So you can see the answer of this particular solution is 4 only. So we have seen the algorithm. Now the only thing that is remained is to write this algorithm. So I hope those who code in Java, they can code it, and those who code in C++, they can also code it. Even Python people, those who code in those who are having languages Python in which they write code, they can also code it, right? So let us see the problem. So let's say int subarray sum. So I'm going to take one array, and I'm going to take the size of this array, and I'm going to take some k, right? So let us take the input first. So I'll take the array as the input. So don't worry about it if you are not comfortable with this syntax. So that's absolutely fine. You can write it in your own syntax. You would be able to figure out that what I'm trying to write. So you can continue with me, and you can also write it. So I'll take one more input, which is equals to k. So I have just passed these elements to the function, right? So I have passed these elements to the function, and let us see how we can do it. So in this we need a deck, so I have included that STL as well. So let us create a deck. But in deck, we are not going to insert integers. What we are inserting inside this particular deck, we are inserting a pair, right? So in C++, we can insert it using this particular syntax, which is called as pair. So in pair, we will have two things, that is sum and index. Both are integers, right? Sum is also integer and index is also integer. So I'll write, we are going to insert pair in it, int, comma, int, right? So we have created it. The next thing is we need to calculate the prefix sum. So what I'll do, I'll iterate over the array, and I'll calculate the prefix sum. So let me say that the sum array is also going to be of n length, right? So we are going to calculate it. So I can say that it's nothing. So I'll consider it as 0. So I'll write sum of I is nothing but plus equals to x. X is plus equals to the current bucket. So you can calculate the prefix sum this way, right? So I hope this thing is clear to all of you. We have just added it. Sorry, we will not add this sum. We will add this ARR, because we are calculating the sum of this array. So what I'm doing, I'm adding every bucket to the x bucket, x integer, and I'm then storing the x value to the sum of ith bucket. Not to add it, I'll store it. So we have created a doubly ended queue, right? So the next thing is, once we have created this doubly ended queue, so you have seen that earlier. Let me just move to, let us not take it over there. We have stored this 0 comma minus 1 earlier. Why? Because sum is 0 initially, and the index we have considered as minus 1. So what I'll do q dot push, right? So I'll do q dot pushback. So we will insert the pair. So we can insert a pair. The sum is equals to 0. The index is equals to -1. And in pair, if we want to access the first element, I don't know how many of you have used pair or how many of you have not. So let's say if I am going to create a pair that contains two things, int comma int. Let's say this pair is p. If I want to take the first value of this pair, we write it as p dot first, and if you want to consider the second value, we write p dot second. So this is how we can access the first and second bucket of this particular pair, p dot first and p dot second. So if we are inside this particular queue, and if we get this element, which is the element at front, so we can get that element using q dot front. And if you want to try, if you want to get the last element of the queue, we can get it q dot right. So if I want to insert something at the end, we can insert at the end by using q dot push back. And if I want to remove something, so I can do q dot pop front. So you can use pop push at front and back. So that's double-ended queue. All right. So we have inserted it. Now next thing that we are going to do is we need to calculate the shortest length. So once we, till the time we don't find it, we will consider something which cannot be the answer, because int max cannot be the answer, right? So I'll take the maximum value, which obviously I'm sure about it that the answer is going to be something smaller than this. So we have taken the answer as int max. Now next thing is we need to iterate over the array again, right? So we are going to iterate over this particular array again, and we are going to fill up this queue. So I'll just start with it again, right? So we are going to fill up this queue. So when we are trying to fill up this queue, we start from I equals to 0. What we do? Initially, there is nothing inside the queue. So we have inserted this particular sum 0 and index that is equals to -1, right? So let me just write, I'll do q dot push back, whatever the sum is. So sum is sum of I of the current bucket and the index. So let's just write q dot push back, and we are going to insert it. But there were certain steps that we need to do before we can insert the current element. And what were those steps? So let us see those steps, right? So see, just let's see again that we are on this particular index, and this is 3,6. All right. So we are on this ith index, which is equals to 0. Now what we are going to do? We are going to check that the sum that we currently have, whether it's greater than the previous sum or not. So previous sum, how can I get the previous sum that we just inserted before we are going to insert this particular element? I can get that q dot back, right? So q dot back is going to give me this pair of 0, 1, right? If we have 0, -1, sorry, 0, -1, and if I want to find the sum, what is the value of this sum? So I can write dot first, because we are getting a pair, and if we want to access the first element, how we can do? We can do it using q dot first. To access the second element, we can do q dot back dot second. So this is how we can do it, right? So this is how we can do it. All right. So we need to check certain things, right? So let us see how we can do it. So see, while q is not empty, right? And I'll write if the sum, right? If the sum that we are trying to insert, I can say that the current sum I that I'm trying to insert, if that is less than equals to q dot back dot first. So what should I do? I should remove these elements which were inserted earlier, right? This was the problem, or this was the algorithm that we wrote. If that sum I that we are going to insert, if that is less than whatever has been inserted earlier, so what I'm going to do? I'm going to do q dot pop back. and this check is important because Q should not be empty, only then I can get some element. If Q is empty, I cannot get any element. So this step is very important that we uh, have written. The next thing is, so see, now the sum is not less than the previous element. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert the sum with the index, which is 0th index. Now we will move one step ahead. So in this case, you will see that the sum that we have to insert, that is sum of I is equals to 1. Yes, this sum of I is less than equals to the previous sum. So what should I do? I should remove this particular bucket from the queue. So how can I do that? I can do pop back, which we have already done. Yes, so we have done. So I'll see that this sum less than the current sum or not? No, this is not less than. So what I'll do, I'll simply insert the sum I with index I. So we have done this particular thing over here, right? So the next step that we used to check was, for example, I'll explain it using this step, that what we have done. Suppose that the current sum I, right, the current sum I that we are currently standing on, if this, or let us just see, yeah. So if this sum I minus the sum of this particular bucket, if this is greater than equals to k, so what should I do? In this case, I will start calculating the length. So if you want me to do this thing again, so you can see that this sum is equals to -1, which is smaller than the previous sum. So what I'll do, I'll remove this sum and I'll insert the current sum, which is -1 comma 2. So that's fine. So this is greater than the prior, so it will be inserted. Again, it's greater than the prior, so it will be inserted. So we'll get at this point the sum is smaller than the previous sum, so we will remove this thing and I'll insert 5 comma 5 in this case. So yeah, so next sum is 10 and the index is 6. So whenever we are on the sum, whenever we are on some sum I, and this sum I minus the sum that we have stored earlier, if this range is having sum which is greater than equals to k, in this case what we do, we calculate our answer, right? So whenever the sum that we have currently, so I'll write while the sum that we have currently, if I'll subtract the element that is inserted at the front part of the queue. So how can I get the front part? So I can write q dot front and I can get the sum using dot first. If this is greater than equals to k, then we need to calculate the answer, right? Because we need the minimum sum, at least sum should be equals to k. So in this case also q should not be empty, and this thing is true. Till the time this thing is true, what would I do in this case, right? What will I do in this case? So see, yeah, the sum that we are currently on, if I'll subtract and I'll find the range of this particular, the length of this particular range, so I can get that using the ith index. The currently I am on the ith index, right? So the last index that I am on, I can get it using the ith index. If this particular sum I is smaller than minus whatever we have stored at the front of the queue, the sum at front, right? I'm writing sum at front of the queue. If this is greater than equals to k, so I should evaluate the answer. So what is the length of this particular range? How can I get that length? So I can say that this index is nothing but I. What is the length of this particular range? I can get the index of the starting point from q dot front minus, if I'll do q dot front dot second, right? So this will give me the range if I'll write q dot front dot second. So this will give me the range of this particular subarray. So I can write that the answer is going to be, because we need to find the minimum range, I'll always take the minimum of answer comma I minus q dot front dot second. So we have considered the length of this particular range. Now what I'll do, once we have calculated the length, so the length will come out to be 6 of minus 1. This is going to be 7. This was the range that we calculated earlier, which is equals to 7. So that's absolutely fine. We will update the answer. Answer was equals to infinity initially. We will update it to 7 because we have considered the minimum of the answer or this particular range that we have calculated. So we have taken the minimum of these two. So once we have considered the first element of the queue, what should I do with this first element? I will remove this first element. How can I remove it? I can write q dot pop front. Right, so these were the steps through which we can calculate it. Now, what should be the answer? You see, there is a possibility that if the sum is not equals to k, it's possible that I'll insert all the elements which are negative. In that case, we will not have sum which is equals to k. So the answer should be equals to minus 1 in that case. So what I can do, I can check if the answer is equals to int max. So the answer did not got updated in this particular step. So the answer will be equals to int max after the process as well. So what I'll do, I'll return minus 1 in this case. Otherwise, if answer is not equals to int max, we have calculated some answer. So I'll return the answer. So I hope this thing should work. Let us try to run this thing. Let us see whether this gives us the correct answer or not. So let me just write this. So we have 7 elements: 3, minus 2, 4, 3, and minus 1, comma 5. The sum is 8. So see, the output length turns out to be 4. So this is giving us the correct answer. So what I'll do, I'll just copy paste it over here. Let us see whether this works or not. So let us submit this code. So you can see this is giving us the correct output. So this is how we can solve this particular problem. So now let us see the next question. The next question is also based upon queues, and the thing that you must be wondering in this particular problem is that this problem was quite easy. There was no need to include this, right? So the thing that the reason why I have included this problem is this problem can be done by using all the queues that you have studied till now. It can be done using deck, it can be done using circular queue, it can be done using circular queue, normal queue, and deck. So we can do it using 2-pointer approach as well. So that's why what happens inside interview is they will ask you a certain problem and they might ask you to tell us the various approaches that you can follow to solve this particular problem. So this problem has been asked in Google, this problem has been asked in Facebook, this problem has been asked in Microsoft as well, and it has been asked quite a number of times. So let us see how we can do this problem. We will see 2 approaches through which we can do it. We will see how we can do it using circular queue, and we will see how we can do it using normal queue. Alright, so first of all, let us see how we can do this problem using circular queue. So see, what this problem says is you need to tell the average of the window size, which is equals to 5. So whatever elements that we have in this particular window, which is of size 5, we need to tell average of it. So see, first of all, we have this element, so the average is 51 only if there is one element. If we have 2 elements, so the average will be 56.5. If we have 3 elements, so the average will be this. If we have 4 elements, so the average will be this. If we have 5 elements, so the average will be this. But now the things change. So if I'll insert one more element to this particular set of numbers, so the average should be of these numbers and not from the starting point. So the average of this will be 49.2, and this is how we have to calculate it. So you can see it very easily that if we are having a certain queue, So let's say if there is a circular queue. So what I'll do, I'll make it of size equals to 5. So when we will insert one element, so I'll insert one element to this queue. So I'll insert 51 to it. Right. So if someone asks me that what is the average, I'll take one bucket, which is the sum bucket, in which I will calculate what is the sum of this particular window that we have inside the queue. So initially the sum is equals to 51. So that's fine. We will insert the next element. So I can print the average by this, because the sum is also integer and the size of the queue is also integer if we are trying to find the average. So what I can do, I can make it double by writing double in front of it. I can write make sum as double, consider sum as double, and I can divide it by the size of the queue, right? So this will be our output. So that's fine. So next number is equals to 62. So we will insert it inside the queue. The next number is 25. So we will insert it inside the queue, and we are adding these elements as well. So I can print the average using this. When I'll insert one more element, I can print the average using this, because it will be 51 plus 62 plus 25, whatever it is, divided by the size of queue, which is 3. So I'll insert 51, the next element, and I'll add it to the sum. I'll insert 79. So we are adding these elements inside the queue. We are adding the elements, not the sum, right? Sum is stored inside this bucket, which is the sum bucket. Now what happens? We have the size of the queue as k is equals to 5 now. Now if someone tries to insert one more element to it, which is 33, we need to remove the first element. Alright, so we will subtract the 51 from the sum, and we will add this element to the sum. So this is how we are going to do it, right? So let us write the code for this particular thing. So I know this thing is easy, so you would be able to understand. So first of all, let's make it void circular. Okay. So I have copy pasted the code for the circular queue over here, right? So you can read about it if you don't know about how we can create circular queue. So you can read about it. So what I'll do, firstly I'll create a queue that is circular queue, and I'll make the size of the queue as k. So firstly user will give me the size of the window, and I'm assuming that is equals to k. And the next thing is user is going to give me the data stream till we don't get -1. Until we don't get -1 as the input, we need to calculate the average till that point. So what I'll do, I'll take one bucket and I'll write c in n while n is not equals to -1. We need to do some work. What is that work? We will take one bucket, and that is having sum equals to 0, and we will keep on inserting the elements. Alright, so we have inserted it. The next thing that we are going to do is we are going to add this particular bucket to the sum, and I'll check if the queue that I am having is full. So what should I do in this case? When the queue becomes full, you can see when this particular queue is full, there are 5 elements inside it. So we will not insert one more element. Firstly, what we need to do, we need to remove the element that was inserted at the earliest, right? So how can we do that? I can get that element using q dot front. So I'll write sum minus equals to q dot front, and I'll remove it. Alright, otherwise I can simply push it. If the queue is not full, I can simply push the element inside the queue. That's it. So till the time there are no elements. So how can I get the answer? So I can simply print double sum divide by q dot size. So this way we can do it, right? So let us see how whether this thing works or not. So I think this will give us the correct answer. So let us just call this thing. So I have just copy pasted it. I'll submit this code. So let us see if this is giving us the correct answer or not. So yes, you can see that this is giving us the correct answer. This was quite easy. The next way we can do it is using normal queue. So I'll write void, we are calculating average, We will copy paste this code only. There will be certain modifications to this particular code. The rest will remain the same. Instead of using this queue, what I'm going to use, I'm going to use a normal queue, right? So I'll just remove this part because we will update it. We won't be using circular queue here. Now we are going to use a normal queue. Alright. So see that what we are going to do in this case, we are going to insert the elements inside the queue like we were used to. So I'll insert 52, I'll insert 62, I'll print the average of course, I'll insert 51, I'll insert 79. So if I'll insert the size, if I'll insert the element 33. So in this case, what I'll do, when we have inserted one element and it increases the size of the queue which is greater than k, right? Because right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 elements, right? So the size of the queue is 6. So when we have the size of the queue which is greater than k, we were allowed to have only 5 elements. But what happened in this case? I'll write if q dot size is greater than k. So in this case, what should I do? Firstly, I will decrease this value 51 from the sum. So what I'll do, I'll write sum minus equals to q dot front, and I'll pop it from the queue. Right? So we will remove it from the sum. I'll decrease it. So because we are trying to figure out the sum of this window, so we will remove it. Right? So I have removed it from the queue and I have decreased it from the sum as well. So that's obvious that we are going to do it this way, but we are going to insert the element inside the queue as well. So it can be done this way as well, right? So this is also a very simple approach. So now let us see whether this thing works or not. So instead of calling circular queue over here, I'll call average. So this thing should also give us the correct answer. Let us try to submit it. So yes, you can see that this is also giving us the correct answer. You can use deck as well. You can use two pointer approach as well. So this problem has many solutions. So that's why the interviewers will ask you that in which all ways you can solve this particular problem. So the way that you will forget might be using doubly ended queue. It might be possible that you won't think about circular queue. So you should think and you should know that you should be having the uh, different ways through which you can solve a particular problem. So this was a very good problem for that particular case. So that's why we have included it. All right. So now let us move towards the next topic that we have, which is stack. So the first problem that we are going to do is Sheldon Cooper unique string. So let us see what this problem says. So this problem says that Sheldon Cooper has a string which consists of only of lowercase characters. All right. But the problem is that string contains duplicate characters. So there are certain characters which appears more than once. So what he wants to do is he wants to remove the duplicate characters, and we should return the lexicographically minimum possible string. So lexicographically means dictionary wise. So dictionary wise it should be the minimum, right? So it should be the smallest string dictionary wise, and it should contain all the unique characters. If there are certain characters A, B, C, and D, and they occur multiple number of times, we can remove certain characters, but every character which is present inside the string and that is unique, that should be present in the output. So let us see how we can do it. So we are given some constraint that the length of the string can go from 1 till 10 raised to the power 6. Again, we need to do it in O of n time complexity. We cannot go for O of n square. So let us see that you can see some examples. So for the example, this is string BABC. So the output is ABC, because if we are going to consider, let's say BABC. So see, if you will consider this string, so this string contains all the unique character A and B. So we can remove this character. So this is lexicographically smallest string. You could have consider, you could have made this a string, this as well. We could have made this a string BAC as well. We could have removed this B as well, but ABC is lexicographically smaller than BAC. So we will not make it BAC, we will make it ABC. Alright. So let us see how we can do this particular problem. So see, the problem is, and we can do it using stack, but before moving towards the algorithm, let us try to visualize it, that how we can do it. So suppose that we are given this string, and in this string there are certain characters. So how and where, which position should I include for a particular character and which position should I not include? So that can be done using something which is called as, I can keep a track of the last index, where when does this A occurs at last. So what I'll do, I'll store something which is called as last index of every character. So if I want to map this A character to the 0th index, I can do A minus 0, A minus A. Sorry. So this will give us 0. So if I want to map a certain character B, a character B to one index, so I'll do B minus character A, so this will give me 1. So to map any character to the index, so we will have it till Z, right? So Z will be mapped to 25th, because from 0 to 25th there are 26 characters or 26 buckets. So I can map every character to a particular index using ch minus A. So Z minus A is going to give us 25 and so on. So we have mapped it. Alright. Now the next thing that comes into the picture is, we have stored the last indexes of all the characters. So A occurs at last index 2, B occurs at last index 6, and C occurs at last index 3, D occurs at last index 4. Alright, so we have stored the last indices of all the buckets, of all the unique characters. Now let us see whether we can consider this particular character in our output or not. Right now, if anyone asks me, so yes, I can include this character. Once I have included B, I will not consider B again. So what I'll do, I'll create one more array in which I will say that output, is it present inside output or not, right? So I can say present or not. So I have one more array which is of boolean that stores whether we have considered a particular character or not. Every character is by default initialized to false. So by default or initially we have not considered any character, so we'll make every bucket as false. So we have considered B, so I'll mark B as true. Now if someone asks me to consider another B, so no, I won't consider it because this is already present. So I'll move one step ahead. So I'll see that the next character that I have is equals to A. If someone says that I have the next character which is equals to A, so what I'll do, I'll check now, is there any character which is greater than this particular character A, right? So I'll see whether the character that we have in our output, this is our output, right, that we are creating. So I'll see if there is any character which is greater than this A and it's present inside this output. Yes, there is one character B which is present inside this particular output and it's greater than A. So what I'll do, I'll try to figure out, is there an index that this particular character which is greater than A have, and if that particular character is having certain index which is greater than this particular character's index, so what I'll do, I'll remove that character because I can include this greater character later on, because lexicographically I want the smallest string. So I will remove this particular character and I'll insert A in the output and I'll mark that I have removed B. So B is marked as false right now. I saw that I have a certain character A and that character A is smaller than the character which was present inside this particular string earlier, which is B, and B have a certain index that occurs later on, right? So what I'll do, I'll remove this particular character from the output and I'll add this particular character A to the output, because this will make the string lexicographically smallest. Alright, so we'll move towards the next character, which is C. So I am on the next character, which is C. So I'll see, is there any character which is, so I have inserted A, so I'll mark it as true. So I'll check whether this character C is present or not. No, C is not present, right? C is not present, so I'll insert C. But before insertion, I'll check, is there any character which is greater than C? No, there is no character which is greater than C. So it's fine, we can insert C. I'll come to the next character and I'll check, is there any character which is greater than D? No, so I'll insert it. Now what I'll do, I'll check the next character which is equals to B. Now what I need to check is there any character which is greater than B in the entire string? Yes, there are two characters which are greater than B, which is C and D. I'll check whether C have or whether D have the index that occurs after this particular index, right? So I'll check whether we have a certain index which occurs after this particular index B and it also contains D. No, we don't have any index which contains D and that occurs after the fifth index. So what I'll do, I will not remove the D. The D will stay because we need all the characters in our string. So we cannot remove D. D will come at this point only. So it's fine. But what if I have the string as this? I inserted one more character at the end, suppose, and that character is equals to D. So the last index of D will be now equals to 7. So instead of 4, the last index will be equals to 7. So now I'll check, is there any character which is greater than B? So yes, D is the character. And does this D have occurrence after the current index that I am standing on? So yes, there is one index 7 on which I can consider D. So what I'll do, I'll remove this D and I'll insert the B character on its place. I cannot remove C because C is having only one occurrence and that is occurring before this particular index, so I cannot remove it. So now we have to do the same algorithm using stack. So let us see how we can do it using stack. So problem is quite easy. Once you know how we can approach this problem, we have seen how we can do it without using stack. Now we will see how we can do it using stack. So consider stack. Alright, so we have this stack. We have stored the last index of every character. That's fine. And initially we don't have any character in the output. So I'll mark every character as false. Alright, so I'll come to the first character. So this character is not present inside the stack, so I'll insert it. I'll move to the next character, which is B. So this is present inside the stack, so I will not insert it. So I'll ignore this particular character. Now I'll move toward the next character, which is A. So I'll see, is there any character? So whenever I insert B, I will mark it as true. So I'll see, is there any character that is greater than A? So I have to insert the character A. So what I'll check that the character which is stored earlier than this particular character A. Does this character which is stored at the top of the stack have an occurrence after the particular index I am standing on? So yes, the last index of the B is 6. So what I'll do, I'll remove this index B and I'll mark it as false. So what I checked the character that we have on the top, right? Whether this character is greater than the character A or not. So right, if that character is greater than A, what I need to check? I need to check whether it's present at a certain index which is greater than I. Whether it is present at a certain index which is greater than the current index. So what I'll do, I'll remove that element because that element or that character can be considered later on. So now stack is empty. What I'll do, I'll insert A and I'll mark it as true. B has been marked as false. So that's fine. Now I'll move towards the next character, which is C. So C is not inserted, and at the top of the stack we have A, which is smaller than C. So it's fine. We will insert C. Next character comes out to be D. So yeah, I'll insert D. So we have marked it as true, we have marked it as true. The next character that comes into the picture is I equals to 5, which is equals to B. So I'll check that I have to insert the character B, right? So whatever element is at the top of the stack, does that element have an occurrence? Right? Does that element have an occurrence after the current index I? So yes, that element have an occurrence at index 7. So what I'll do, I'll remove it because I can consider this later on as it is greater than the current character. So I'll insert B at this position. Now C will not be removed. Why? Because C is not having any occurrence which occurs later on than the current index I am on. So I will not remove it. Next again we have B, but B is already present inside the stack, right? B is already present inside the stack. So I'll see whether D is present or not. No, D is not present. So what I'll do, I'll check that the current character that I have to insert, whether this character is smaller than the element which is stored at the top of the stack or not. No, this is not smaller. So what I'll do, I'll simply insert it. So I hope the algorithm that we are going to follow is clear to all of you, right? So I hope this is clear. So now let us see the implementation of this particular algorithm. So what I'll do, I'll write void and we can write unique, right? We need to create it. So let me create some character array that will help us to solve this particular problem. So I'll create one int last index. So let us say that the last index could be at max. There could be 26 elements. So I'll create it of size 26 only. The next thing is that we need to create is the bool, which is present in stack or not. So that will be also of size 26 and I'll pass 0 to it. So this will make every bucket as 0. So that means false. Next thing is we need to have a stack of characters and I'll insert characters in it one by one. Alright. So what we need to do, we have not considered the input string yet. So we have considered one input string and the length of this string could be 10 raised to the power 6. So we have created one array and I'll input that string into it. So we have considered it. Now next thing is we need to iterate over this string till a of I is not equals to null. I'll do I plus plus. So it's simple. We have to iterate over this entire string from the index 0. So I starts from 0th index and it will go till we don't reach till null. All right. So we will start from it. So first thing that we are going to check is I'm going to pick this particular character. This particular character, I can pick this character up. So I can write char ch is equals to a of I. Now what we need to check is whether this particular character, I'll remove these things. We need to check is whether this particular character is present inside the stack or not. So right now all the buckets are false. So this character is not present inside it. So what I'll do, I'll check if not present in stack this particular character, then we need to do some work. All right. So this is right. Right now this character is not present inside it. So what I'll do, I'll simply insert this particular character and I'll mark that this character has been inserted to the stack. Alright, so let us write s dot push this particular character and I'll write present in stack. For this particular character, I'll mark it as true. So we have marked it. The next thing is, see, the next character that I'm going to get is B. It is present inside stack. So this condition, if not present, won't be equals to true, right? So we won't go inside this loop, so it's fine. Next character that we will see is I is equals to 2. But now we need to know that if the element that we have at the top of the stack whether this element have an occurrence which occurs later on than this particular index I. So for that we need to find the last index as well. We have not calculated it yet. So once we have it, so what I'll do for int I equals to 0, I'll iterate over the entire string till a of I is not equals to null, and I'll do I plus plus. So I'll write last index of this particular character, that whatever character we are on become equals to I. So this way we can calculate the last index and this will work absolutely fine. So what I'm doing is, we found b at 0, so I'll update the last index as 0. We find b as at 1, so I'll update it to 1. And we will find b at 6. So the last index that it will have is will be equals to 6. So we are keep updating it every time we find a particular character. So after the iteration over the entire string, we will have the last index of every character. All right. So we have calculated it. The next thing that we are going to do in this is, see, now we are on the index 2 and the current character that we have is equals to A. What is the next thing that we do? We check whether the character that we have at the topmost. So we check if the character that we have at the topmost, if that character is greater than the current character that we are on. Apart from that, what we do, and we check if the last index, right, last index of the topmost character. So I can say that the topmost character is s dot top, right? So last index of the topmost character, if that index is greater than the current index we are standing on. So what should I do in this case? So see, the last index of b is greater than the current index that we are on. So what I should do? I should remove this b. So what I'll do, I'll remove this b. But before removing this, what we need to do, we need to mark it false in the stack, in this present in stack or not. We need to mark that particular character as false. So I'll come over here, I'll do if the character that we have is less than the topmost element which is present inside the stack. But whenever we are checking something in the stack, we need to check the stack should not be empty. Then only we can check a particular character. If stack is not empty and the character that we have is less than the topmost element of the character, and then the last index of the s dot top minus the character a is greater than I. So what should I do? I should simply do pop, but before popping we need to mark it as false in the present in stack as well, because we are removing one character from the stack. So what I'll do, present in stack, this particular character will be, sorry, s dot top, which we are going to remove, will be marked as false. Simple. We have done it. Till the time it's not empty, we will check the characters that we have inside the stack which are greater than the current character. We will remove all of those characters one by one, and we will mark them that they are not present in stack. So this thing should work absolutely fine. So see, this thing is going to work fine. Yes, we have an occurrence which occurs later on. So yeah, we will remove b. So now stack is empty. So this loop will stop. Sorry, it will not be if, it will be while. Till the time all the elements that are greater than the particular character and they have occurrences later on. So we will remove all those characters. So yeah, we removed all those characters. So stack is empty now. So what we will do, we will push this particular character a and we will mark this, that this is present inside the stack as true. So we will mark it as true. So it's going to work absolutely fine. The next character that comes into the picture is C. So see, C is not present inside the stack. C is not present inside the stack. So we will go inside this if condition. We will check if stack is empty. No, stack is not empty because we have one character A inside this. The current character that we are on is C. Is C greater than, is C smaller than the topmost character? No. So we will not go inside this while loop. We will simply insert the character ch and we will mark it as true. We will insert c and we will mark it as true. So this is working fine. The next character that comes into the picture is d. Again, this is not smaller than the topmost element. We will insert it. Now, for example, let's say I'll say that there is one character c that occurs later on as well. So the last index of c is equals to 8. This is just to explain you that why I have added that while condition and not if. So the next character that we are on is b. So see, we are on this particular character b and the I is equals to 5 in this case. So what we'll do, we will check whether the topmost element that we have is greater than the current character ch. Yes. Whether this character have an occurrence that occurs after this particular index I. Yes. So what I'll do, I'll remove this character because I can consider this character later on and I'll mark it as false. Earlier when we have inserted, we have marked it as true. The next character which is at the top of the stack is C. So what I'll do, I'll check whether this character is smaller than the topmost character or not. Yes, this is smaller than the current character which is at the top of the stack. So what I'll do, I'll check whether this character have an occurrence that occurs later on C. So I can check that from this particular array. So yes, this character does have an occurrence after I equals to 5. So I'll remove this as well. So we will remove all the characters that are greater than b and they have occurrence after the ith index. So I'll remove them. But c is not smaller than b, so I'll insert b now. So this is why we have done this particular thing, right? So the next thing we will mark b as true and c will be false because we have removed it. Next we'll come on to d. So d is greater than b, so we will insert it. Next we'll come to c. So I is equals to 8. So now we are on the current character ch equals to c. I have to insert it. Why? Because there is no occurrence of d later after c. So I'll insert it. So you can see the answer of this particular string is a, b, d, c. So we can print this. How can I print this thing now? So to print this thing now, I need an array in which I can store this particular character set of characters. So I'll create one answer bucket. So the size of this stack is equals to 4. Right, so size of this stack is equals to 4. So I can keep an iterator at k is equals to 4. So after we are outside this loop, I'll keep an iterator as stack.size. What I'll do, at this particular index, I'll store null because whenever we store set of characters, it has to be terminated by null. So I'll store null at this point, right? And I'll decrease the value of k. So now what I'll do, I'll empty the stack one by one and I'll copy the character C, D, B, A one by one. And I have stored it in the reverse order, so it will work absolutely fine. So yeah, so char star answer is equals to new char k plus 1 because we want the fourth index as well. So at the kth index we stored the null. Now what I'll do, while not s dot empty, right? So I'll store a of k as s dot top. I'll do s dot pop and k minus minus. Simple. After we have done this thing, I'll simply print the answer bucket. Okay, so this will not be ch, this will be a of I because we have not stored it inside the. Alright, let us include the stack stl as well. So I think this thing should work now. So we will call unique. So let us give this particular string as the input and let's see whether this works or not. Have created answer and not a, so we need to store it in answer and not a. So you can see we are getting ACD BBV. So right, so this will be minus a, right? So we have done this mistake. So yeah, you can see this is working absolutely fine. We can do it for the string that we were looking right now. So it will be C DC. So this is giving AB DC. So this is giving us the correct answer. Alright, so let us run this again for this string D. So this is giving us the correct answer. So this is how it works. So now let us just copy paste this particular over here and let's see whether it works or not. So let us submit it. So yeah, so this is working absolutely fine. So I hope this problem is clear to all of you. So now let us move towards the next problem. So now let us see the next question. This is Lord Shri Ram and Ravan. So what is happening? There is a battle which is going on between Lord Ram and Ravan. So what happens is they are both shooting arrows towards each other, not necessarily turn by turn. Okay. So what happens is they can shoot multiple arrows at one time. So it's given that we are given certain state of the arrows, that how many arrows Ravan has shot and how many arrows Sri Ram has shot. So what we need to do is we need to tell the final state of the arrow. So our task is to determine the final state of the arrow, that what how many arrows would be going towards Lord Ram and how many arrows will be going towards Ravan. So what happens is this is the final state. So for example, if these were the arrows that were shot, so they said the total number of arrows that were shot was 10, and these were the states of the arrows, right? So let's say negative arrows were shot by uh, Lord Ram and the positive arrows were shot by Ravan. So these were the final states. These arrows remain and rest of the arrows collided with each other and they turned out to be they got removed from the scenario, right? So consider this, right? So how we can say, let's say positive means if the state is positive, this means that arrow is going towards the right side. If it's negative, that means it's going towards the left side. If both the arrows have the magnitude which is equal to each other, so they will cancel out each other, otherwise they will not, right? So these two arrow will cancel out each other and they both will be removed. And if we are considering two arrows that don't have the magnitude equals to each other, so whichever magnitude is higher, whether the negative magnitude or positive magnitude, only that arrow will remain, the other arrow will disappear. So what happens when these two will collide? This is going in this direction, this is going in this direction, so 2 will be removed from the scenario. Now 5 is going in this direction. We'll talk about 7. So 7 is going in this direction now, so that's fine. Now if we'll consider minus 6, so minus 6 is going in this direction, so they both will collide with each other. So minus 6 will be removed from the picture because its magnitude is smaller than the 7. So minus 5 will go towards this point. So 7 and minus 5 will collide with each other because minus 5 was short after 7. So they both will collide. So minus 5 will be removed. Now this is going in this direction and 3 is also going in this direction. So 3 will collide with minus 5. So 3 will be removed. Right. So 7 will collide with minus 5 again. So minus 5 will get removed. So 10 is going in this direction only. So it will keep on going in that direction only. So we have only 3 arrows that remain. So minus 5, 7 and 10. So this is the output. And this is what we need to figure out. What is the state of the final arrow? So we will know that if there is Lord Ram, so he needs to shoot 2 arrows, one of minus 7 and one of minus 10, right? So firstly he'll have to shoot it off minus 10. So this way he can figure out that how many arrows and what should be the magnitude of those arrows that needs to be shot, so that they will cancel out these arrows, right? So we need to tell this particular problem, we need to do this particular problem. So let us see how we can do it. So I hope the problem is clear to all of you, that what is the problem in hand and how we can do it. We'll see that. So we'll do it using stack only. This is also a problem which is based on stack, and let us see how we can do it. So consider these arrows. So first we will get these arrows 1, 2, 3. These are the indices at the position which we are getting these arrows. So we will take a stack. Alright, so first arrow is 1. So there is no other arrow right now, so we will simply insert it inside the stack. Now whenever the next arrow will come into the picture, we will see that if this arrow is going downwards, right? We will say that positive means upwards and negative means downwards. These two arrows will only collide if the element at the stack top is having a value which is greater than 0 and the element that we are currently on is negative. Only then collision will occur. In any other case, collision will not take place. You can consider it if we have negative above and positive downwards. So this is going upward, this is going downward, so they will collide. If we have two arrows, negative and negative, so they both are going towards down, so they won't collide. If we have two arrows of positive magnitude, they both will go upwards, they won't collide. If we have something like positive and the topmost of the stack is negative, so this will go downward, this will go upward. Again, these two will not collide. So we only have one case in which collision will occur. It's when the current element that I am on and the topmost element at the stack that we are having, they both have the magnitude. The element that is incoming, it's having negative magnitude, and the element which is stored at the top of the stack is having positive magnitude. Only then the collision will occur, otherwise it will not collide. Alright, so we have, let's say I am iterating over it and the value that I am having is x. If x is less than 0 and this is the incoming element and the stack of the topmost element of the stack is having the magnitude greater than 0. So in this case collision will take place. Right? Collision will take place, otherwise it will not. There won't be any collision. So yeah, you can see that we have this. So collision will take place in this case. So which arrow will remain? Both of the arrows will vanish. Why? Because both of the arrows have the same magnitude. So they both will vanish. So I'll remove both the elements. So I'll move one step ahead. So 2, so I'll insert 2. Minus 5. Again, x is less than 0. Topmost element is positive. So collision will take place. Which element will be removed? 2 will be removed because its magnitude is smaller than minus 5. So I'll insert minus 5. So this arrow will not collide with anyone now. So I know that. So I'll insert the next element, which is 7. Right, so this is as the top now. So this is greater than 0, yes. So this will collide with the other arrows. So we have minus 6. Right, so x is minus 6. So we have collision of minus 6 and 7. Which element will be removed? The minus 6 will be removed. So 7 will remain at its place. So we have minus 5 next. So again, minus 5 and 7, they both will collide. 7 will stay and minus 5 will be removed. So we have next element as 3. So yeah, they both are going towards upwards, so that's fine. So we have next element as minus 5. So minus 5 will remove this particular arrow, yes. So what we need to do, we have removed this minus 5 from the picture and we will consider the collision of the next two arrows as well, which is minus 5 and 7. So minus 5 and 7, which arrow will be removed? Minus 5. So this is the final state of the stack. So next is 10. So yeah, 10 is going upwards. So yeah, that's fine. So these elements or these arrows will remain when we have considered all the arrows that were thrown, right? So let us see how we can code this particular point or how we can code this particular algorithm. Let us see that. So the x will start from the 0th index, we know. I'll start x from 0 and x will go till n minus 1. So first of all, let us take input of these arrows. Alright. So we'll write int n. I'll take input of n and I can call Lord Ram function. So I'll pass this n in here. So I'll call void dot ram. It will take one n. What is going to happen now? We will take elements one by one. So I don't need to store it inside the array. I can consider elements one by one, and I can store it inside the stack. So we have one stack. We have created it. So I'll write for int I equals to 0, I is less than n, I plus plus. So I'll take one int x. I'll take input of x one by one. Because we don't need to consider all the elements at one, I don't need to store all the arrows. What I need to do is I need to take arrows one by one. So I can simply ignore the array part. We don't have to store all the elements first. So what happens? We have two cases, right? If not s dot empty. So if stack is not empty and as s dot top, stack top is greater than 0, and the x value that we have is less than 0. In this, collision will take place. Right? So arrows will collide. I can write arrows will collide. Else arrows will not collide. If the collision is not occurring, so the first element that we get is equals to 1. So collision stack is not stack is empty in this case. So what I'll do, I'll simply insert the element. So in case of else, simply insert the element. So what I'll do, I'll simply write s dot push whatever the arrow that we got. So not n, sorry, it will be x. This will not be n, this will be equals to x. So that's fine. Now, when we have an arrow that is less than 0, when we have certain value of x which is less than 0, and we have s dot top which is greater than 0, so collision is going to take place. Arrows will collide in this case. So what will happen? Whether we have to insert -1 or not, that will depend after the collision what is the state of this particular arrows. So so what we will do, we will check. So we will check certain things. So I'll write while not s dot empty, and till the time s dot top is greater than 0, and till the time x is less than 0, till that time collision will keep on happening. So what I'll do, I'll check if the magnitude of the x is equals to the magnitude of s dot top. So in this case, what will happen? So in this case, this is the first case. If magnitude of x is equals to the magnitude of s dot top. So what should I do in this case? I should simply pop it, that there would be no arrow which will remain. So I will not insert x. So by default, initially, I'll assume, let's say I'll take a flag variable whether I have to insert the x arrow or not. So I'll take that by default I have to insert it for x, whether we need to insert it or not. By default I am assuming that I have to insert the x arrow inside the stack. But if this absolute of x is equals to absolute of y, so in this case, absolute of x is equals to absolute of stack dot top. So what I'll do, I'll simply pop the arrow which is inside the stack, because there will be no arrow that will remain. So I'll write, in this case, what I'll do, I'll simply write over here s dot pop. Just remove it. Right, and I'll mark flag as false, because we won't insert x in this case, because x is also destroyed, and y, the topmost arrow which was stored at the stack, that is also destroyed. So we will not insert x in this case. Else if it's possible that absolute magnitude of x is greater than absolute of s dot top. Why we are taking absolute? Because we need to compare magnitude. So ABS is a function that considers only the magnitude without the sign, right? So yeah, if the absolute of x, so now let's move forward. So we will insert 2, right? So now we have -5. If the absolute value of x is greater than the stack dot top values, so what I'll do in this case, I will remove this element from the top, and I'll mark that yeah, we need to insert X. So what I'll do in this case, I'll do s dot pop, and I'll do flag equals to true. So yeah, we have to insert the X value now because its magnitude was greater. Now the next possible case is if absolute of X is less than absolute of s dot top, right? So see, now there could be another case as well. So if I'll remove this -2, so I'll insert -5 in this case. So that's fine. We will consider 7. So this magnitude is not greater than 0. So we will not remove these things. All right. So we will come over here and we will check. Right. So we will simply insert the value 7 now because the collision is not happening. So we will insert 7. Now it comes -6. So now absolute of s dot top, which is the magnitude of the arrow which is stored at the stack, it is greater than the value of X. X is equals to -6 in this case. So in this case, what should I do? Should I insert X inside this or not? No, I will not insert X inside the stack. Why? Because the magnitude of X is smaller than the magnitude of the topmost element at the stack. So in this case, I will not insert anything. So I will mark it as false. Right? So when this case occurs, I will not insert anything and I will stop the loop as well, because the element or the arrow which is at the topmost element of the stack, right? So the topmost element of the stack is having greater magnitude than the current value X. So what I should do, there will be no more collisions. I should simply stop. All right, so this is how we can do it, right? So I hope that this thing is clear to all of you, right? So in this case, what we will do when this thing occurs, so I can simply write now, after we have exited this particular loop, I can write if the flag is true, so I can write s dot push the arrow X. We can simply push the arrow X inside it. So yeah, we can do it this way. I hope the algorithm is clear to all of you. Till the time collisions are occurring, we are checking out whether we have to insert X or not. If we can say that the topmost element of the stack is having value which is greater than X, right? So this will not collide with any other arrow, so we will simply stop. We will not insert X. So that's why we have marked flag as false in this case, and we have break the loop, that this loop should not continue because there will not be any more collisions. So we should stop right now. So that's fine. We have not inserted it. Now I'll move ahead. I'll see -5. So -5 and 7 will again collide, and -5 magnitude is again smaller than the topmost element of the stack. So nothing will happen. So this way we will keep on continuing the work, and this way we can figure out which all arrows will remain as we saw earlier. So this is the algorithm, right? So once we are outside this loop, what I can say that the final state of this particular stack would be this. So the output should be -5, 7, 10. So how can I print this? Because if I'll print this particular stack, so output will be 10, 7, -5. So if I want to print this in this order, what I can do, I can take one more stack. I can push all the elements from this stack to another stack. So it will be 10, then 7, then -5. So now if I'll print this stack, let's say S1. So the output will be -5, 7, 10. So this way we can print it. So what I'll do, I'll come over here and I'll create one more stack int S1. I'll write while not S1 dot empty. Sorry, while not s dot empty, I'll push all the elements of stack S to S1. So I'll write S1 dot push s dot top and s dot pop. So yeah, we have inserted all the elements. So now what I'll do, while not S1 dot empty, I'll print all the elements. So s1 dot pop, because we have to print all the elements of stack s1. So now we'll do cout. So let us see whether this algorithm works or not. For this particular case only, let us see. Minus 5 7 comma 10 should be the output. Minus 5 7 comma 10. So this is giving us the correct answer. So let us submit this problem over here. Alright, so we will have to remove this endl from the end. Let us remove it. Submit it. There is a minor mistake. Let us see what is the mistake in this case. Alright, so if the magnitude of both the arrows are same, so what I can do, they both will collide. I'll remove it, then I should stop the algorithm, right? So I'll stop the algorithm if the magnitude are same as well. So I will not keep on continuing the algorithm. So let us submit it again. Because if two arrows collided with each other with the same magnitude, then I won't collide it with the other arrows, right? So this is giving us the correct answer now. So I hope this algorithm is clear to all of you. This was a very interesting problem, and this is how we can do it using stack. So I hope you all must have enjoyed this webinar. So we will keep on continuing with such great webinars every week. And if in case you have certain topics that you want me to cover in this webinar, or anything that you would like for from my side to share with you guys, so you can comment it in the videos, and do let me know if there are any suggestions for me. So for sure I'll consider them as well. So thank you guys for watching the webinar, and bye bye.